Hello, everybody. This is Pam Berkson from Around the Table Yarns, and this is the last, I can't believe it's been the last knit block of the month class for 2022. We've been working on, hold on, drop my paper. We've been working through Building Blocks by Michelle Hunter. And we're on the last block, which is the most advanced block. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks. And then later, because I need to finish this block, I'm going to post a video, same place you're finding this video, on how to join your blocks if you are doing them separately. I know some people are doing them as washcloths, which have come out great. Some people have been doing them in strips, and you have to attach your strips. I've been doing them all as separate blocks. And I will need to block my blocks and put them together. So I wanted to finish this last block before I did that. And I will share some video on how I did that in completing your project. So that'll be posted probably as close to Christmas as I can get it. That's my plan anyway. But today I'm going to show you block 12, which is called Advanced Decreases. And this block covers two decreases we have already learned. One is knit two together, and one is SSK, which stands for slip, slip, knit them together. And now we're going to learn a third decrease called the central double decrease. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to share my screen and show you the block. All right, let me zoom in here. So this is what your block's going to look like. It is very lacy, and as a matter of fact, it is really an introduction to lace work. This is how you do lace. You do it by making decreases and yarn overs. When you do them on accident, they're called holes in your knitting, and when you do them on purpose, you come out with beautiful lace work when they're intentional. So I'm going to show you, I've started this block. I'm going to show you the two decreases we've already learned, and then I'm going to show you the third decrease, the central double decrease. Well, let me get over here. Okay, so here's my block so far. I've done one complete repeat, and I have started my way through my second repeat. I wanted to, you don't do every decrease in every row, so I wanted to have get close to a row where I would be able to show you all three decreases. Okay, so here to here is one complete repeat. So you get these offset little diamonds, and you'll repeat these groupings of 16 rows, I believe, 16 rows, a total of 3 times, and then you'll do an additional 7 rows to kind of finish it out so it looks symmetrical. Okay? So things that we usually talk about with these blocks. I do have markers for my border stitches, for my 4 stitches on either side, and I do have a marker noting the right side. The wrong side is not a reversible block. The wrong side does look very different. It doesn't look bad, it just looks very different. Mostly purl stitches on the wrong side and knit stitches on the right side, but I do have a marker there. This is not a block where you can use markers to block off your repeats. The main reason is that every right side row, your row changes, and because things are moving across, so do your repeats. So having it in groups of 10 and things like that does not work with this particular block. Okay, so let me zoom in here. The other thing that I will point out is in this pattern, every right side row or odd numbered row is you will be doing some decreasing. Every even row or every return row, you will work your border stitches and then you will purl all the way across. This is very common when you're doing lace work because you're going to be doing yarn overs and decreases And then your return row, because we're knitting flat, it's a wrong side row. If you were knitting in the round, there would be just another round in between because you're always working on the right side. So your return row or your second row after decreases is the one you need to set the stitch. So in this case, it's a purl because we're working in stockinette fabric, knit on one side, purl on the other. If we were knitting in garter stitch, it might be a knit row coming back. But generally you don't do 2 rows with yarn overs and decreases in a row. It gets a little hairy. And if you see a pattern that has that and you're on the newer to intermediate side of knitting, probably not the pattern for you because it can be tricky. Okay, so I have worked my way through the first 16 rows, one complete set, and I have also worked my way into row 5, okay? So what you will notice with these rows, these right side rows, is that they all start in a different place. So for example, row 5 starts with a knit 1 before you get to the repeat. On row 3, which is my last right side row, it started with a knit 2 before I got to the repeat. So another reason why you can't use markers to block off your repeats, it changes every row, okay? So I've done my repeat across. I have one more repeat to do, and it shows, it's got both of the decreases we've already done, and then the next row will have the third decrease, okay? So let's start with that. So I'm gonna get my yarn in the right place. Okay. So my repeat is a knit 2 together. Remember, a knit 2 together is grabbing those 2 stitches, knitting together. When you do a knit 2 together, you get a decrease that leans to the right. And you can see they all line up, these knit 2 together, which is what gives you that kind of outline diamond shape. So a knit 2 together leans to the right. And then I'm going to knit 2 stitches. And then I'm going to yarn over. And because my next stitch is a knit stitch, I'm just going to leave my yarn in the front because when I go in to make my knit and bring my yarn across, it finishes the yarn over. If you're not comfortable with that, you can go ahead and bring your yarn between the needle tips and across to the back. And then my next stitch is a knit 1. And then a yarn over again. And a knit 1. And a yarn over, let's see. Oh, and then a knit, I have to go back and knit, I lost my place. So here's another thing that I should have put down is to use highlighter tape on your pattern. I don't want to show the whole pattern because that's not fair to anybody who's watching. But if you, let me grab a piece of highlighter tape. If you'll just hold 1 second. I know I've got some. Highlighter tape can be very helpful in keeping track, especially if you have to keep going back and looking at your pattern. So you just cover up a fair amount of this pattern real quick. I'm doing row 5 here. So I like to put my highlighter tape underneath the row I'm doing, so I can see the row and I can also see what's coming next. But it's just like an underlining. It's removable like Post-it paper. It comes off and you can move it as you go. So I'm going to put this on my, and we sell the highlighter tape in different colors. So here's a good lesson in I put my knitting down and where was I in the repeat. So I'm going to show you a quick thing here on how to check what you've already done. So I stretch out the knitting that I've done. Any of my yarn overs should be kind of leaning to the left. They should not be straight up and down stitches. yarn overs tend to veer off to the side, okay? So there's a yarn over. See how it's leaning to the left? There's a knit stitch. There's another yarn over. There's a knit stitch. So I can go back to see where I had a yarn over, a knit one, a yarn over, and then it was a knit two. So let me knit one more. And then it was an SSK, slip, as if you're knitting, slip, that's SS. K is knit them together by taking your left needle tip and inserting it into the front of those two stitches and knitting them together. Now that decrease leans to the left. Knit two together leans to the right. SSK leans to the left. And then my pattern ends with a knit one, and here I am at my border stitch. Perfect. And because I'm on a right side row, my border is always going to start with a knit. And then I'm just going to work across this wrong side row real quick. Wrong side rows, the border always starts with a purl. Knit. Purl. Knit. And then I purl all of the stitches all the way across, including the yarn overs, which is what sets them and keeps them from falling off your needle. So let me get to a yarn over. If you keep your stitches, sorry about that, if you keep your stitches very close to the tip, so here's a yarn over, it is easy for that yarn over to fall off. It's not a drop, it is a drop stitch, but it's not going to drop any further than that row because you created it in the last row. If it were to fall off, don't panic. Take your needle tip and slip it back on. That's all you have to do, okay? Just don't keep it too close to the tip that they will fall off, because if I were to go on, oh, it doesn't look like a drop stitch, you won't have the right number of stitches, okay? Because I need to purl that stitch. Let me put that yarn over back on the needle and purl it across. There's another yarn over. Again, if it were to fall off, just take your needle tip from the back, lift it back on, and purl it. Sometimes we'll get, and I would say very often, we get new knitters who come in who are either taking our beginning class or working on something in stockinette or in seed stitch or something where they're switching and they're not used to, just not used to knitting yet. And that yarn will get caught between the stitches and create a yarn over, and then they've got a hole in their knitting and they don't understand why. More often than not, it's because you've either moving the yarn back and forth, you've caught a loop of yarn and created a yarn over. And then on that next row, you went through and you knitted it and it created an eyelet, which is what we make in lace. It's a mistake if you didn't intend it, and it's lace if you intended it. Just pull across this row here. I'm really looking forward to putting this blanket together. It's been fun to do these blocks, but I'm anxious to see the finished project. Almost there. So this next row is going to show a new decrease that you may or may not have done before, called a central double decrease. A knit two together decreases by one stitch. A slip slip knit decreases by one stitch, but a central double decrease decreases two stitches. And the nice thing about that stitch, or the unique thing about a central double decrease, is that it does not have a right or a left lean. It is a vertical decrease without a lean to it, okay? So now I am going to move my tape so I don't lose my place. I've done row 6, which is always going to be a purl back across, and now I'm on to row 7 here. All right, start with my border stitches, right side row, start with a knit. Knit. And purl. I'm kind of working around this stand. I have a different camera today, so apologize if it's very awkward. Okay, row 7 starts with, it doesn't start with a knit one, it actually starts with a knit 2 together. Okay, so this row actually has all 3 decreases in it. So it's going to start with a knit 2 together, which is a right leaning decrease. And it kind of completes my line here of right leaning decreases. And then I'm going to knit 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to knit 1. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to knit 3. I'm going to do a central double decrease. Okay. So my central double decrease is going to kind of come between this left leaning, it's where this left leaning decrease and this right leaning decrease come together into these points. We're going to create a central double decrease. And here's how you do it. You are going to slip 2 stitches as if you were knitting them, as if you were going to do a knit 2 together. So insert, but instead of knitting them, you're going to slip them over. So in doing it that way, I've twisted the stitches just a little bit, which ensures that you don't get a big gap. I'm going to knit the next stitch. And then I'm going to take those 2 stitches that I slipped, and I'm going to lift them up, over, and off, like a bind off, over that 1 knit stitch. And as you can see, that decrease lines up straight up and down. It doesn't mean right, it doesn't mean left, it's straight up and down. And we've gotten rid of 2 stitches, okay? In this block, our stitch count stays the same. So for every yarn over that you make, which is adding an extra stitch, you have to have an accompanying either knit 2 together or SSK, slip, slip, knit, and the accompanying decrease in order for your stitch count to stay the same. They don't have to be right next to each other, and often they are not. They might be, in this case, they are on the edges of things, and the yarn overs are in the middle to create the design, or they'll change. So we started with a knit 2 together at the very beginning, but our repeat is a knit 3, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 3, central double decrease, okay? And that has 2 yarn overs in it, and our central double decrease takes care of both of those yarn overs, okay? On the previous row, our repeat was I had a knit 2 together and an SSK. Each one of those took care of the 2 yarn overs because they each decrease 1 stitch. All right. Even though we have a knit 2 together and an SSK in this row, they are decreasing the knit 1s and the knit 2s that we start before our repeat starts. So it keeps our stitch count overall the same. I'm going to do that central double decrease one more time. Knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, yarn over, knit 1, and you're going to start to see your pattern line up here. That knit 1 between the yarn overs, they all should line up. Okay. Yarn over again and knit 3. Let's get that in place. Knit 1, knit two, knit three, central double decrease. So take the next two stitches and you can see I've got a line of them. It's going to line up with those. I'm going to slip two from the left needle to the right needle like I'm knitting them. I'm slipping them together, not separately. Slip, knit the next two, I'm sorry, the next stitch, and then take those two stitches you slipped with the tip of your left needle, work it underneath those two. Split my yarn here, there we go. And I'm pulling on my working yarn to tighten the stitch, which keeps it from being lifted up over and off. And after I do that, then I let go and I pull that stitch back out, okay? So on the back, it looks a little lumpy. Your central double decrease because it's taken those two slip stitches and put them on the back, leaving you with a straight up and down decrease. And then we knit three of them. Do it one more time, and then I think we'll be good. And open it one, and knit three, two, three. I'm just going to double check because I was kind of reading and making sure that my yarn over and my knit one all line up, and they do. And now central double decrease. Slip two stitches as if to knit them, as if you were knitting them together, I should say. Knit the next stitch. I'm going to pull that working yarn to keep that one knit stitch in place. Get under there first. Pull on that, holds that stitch in place while you lift those two slip stitches up over for a nice vertical decrease. And that's all there is to it. That is the central double decrease. So let me just get across the row so I can lay it flat and show you there. And over, and over knit one, and over knit two. So again, I recommend using some highlighter tape or a piece of paper or a post-it note that you can put under so you're only focusing on the correct line of your pattern, because they all look similar, but they are all different. And then I'm going to do, so this, often these rows have you ending the row slightly differently than you started the row. So this one does not end with a central double decrease. It ends with, because I only have two stitches left, it ends with a slip, slip, knit. So make sure you're reading all the way across. So it ends with a left leaning pattern. So let me just do these last border stitches and then I can lay it flat and you can see that. How those decreases look. Right. Okay. So here we have, we're just going to look right in the middle. So our central double decrease right here lays nice and straight. Tilt it over, you can see it's a little bunchy on the back, but that will get tightened up when you do your purl row across. I think that gives you a nice idea. Knit two togethers, SSK, and then you get these central double decreases at these points to decrease into a nice point without leaning right or leaning left. So you have them here and here and here. So you can see how it repeats. So I think it's every, let's see, you do it twice in your repeat. There's two rows that have it in your repeat. All right. So I hope you have enjoyed this Knit Block of the Month series. It's been a great pattern to work through. If you have any questions or you're coming to this late in the game, we're always here for you. You can come into the shop. We still have the patterns. You can buy the pattern online. You can also, we have the book in the shop. And Michelle Hunter has wonderful tutorials and videos as well. She's a wonderful designer and a really great teacher. So if something the way I've said it doesn't do it for you, please go to the links in her patterns. She's got great videos. You're also always welcome to come into the shop because we love to help you around the table. And stay tuned in the next, I want to say, I'm going to try to do it before Christmas, but you know, it's anybody's guess at this point, about how to block your blocks. I'll do a post and how to sew your blocks together. Okay, so I hope you guys are having a great day, and I hope you've enjoyed this series, and we look forward to seeing you in 2023. Bye.